Good morning, everyone. It is Tuesday, February 18th, and this is Red Sea Roundup. Welcome to the show. I am your host, Megan Silas. We are broadcasting live today, so since I forgot to do it last week, I'm going to do it right at the top of the show here and give out the phone numbers in case you're interested in calling or texting your comments or questions. The phone number to call is 85-LOVE-RED-SEA. That's 855-683-7332. Or if you'd like to text, you can text to 979-255-2633. That is assuming, of course, that Dennis has some room left on his phone because I believe he's been getting quite a few texts over the weekend. So later in the show, Legion of Christ priest Father Michael Sullivan will be joining me on the phone to share his vocation story. So let's get to talking about a little bit about Dennis and what you're up to.
Oh, it's no big deal. It's just radio troubles, you know, the devil, the transmitter. It's actually not our station. It's the one we're working with, co-located here in our studio, KACB, which is Aggie Catholic Broadcasting. I think their transmitter might be toast.
Oh, okay.
Possibly, you know.
So what does that mean for those of us who are not rather tech savvy and don't know
what toast means?
No, what a transmitter is. And what
transmitter is what gets the signal from basically the source over to the antenna and out to the air. So they're still online. So if y'all want to tune in to them, go to aggiecatholic.org and go to the KACB links, and you can still listen to them online. But otherwise, I've gotten about 92 at this point text messages from their remote control. I need to go over there after the show and do some repairs and some, as my dad would say, fiddling with the stuff.
Well, let's pray that it's not toast and just something that's fixable.
It's always fixable. We can take care of it. So it's just, you know, about 3 years ago, I would be in full panic mode. And at this point, I'm like, it's part of what we do now. And
right.
I'm learning how to handle it. And it didn't start till about 10 p.m. last night. So I had a good weekend.
Well, good. Anything interesting you want to report that you did over the weekend?
Not interesting. If relaxing is interesting, it was very nice.
Well, that's great. But I know that I did see you at the Guiding Star Brazos Valley kickoff fundraiser on that Sunday.
Yes.
Saw you briefly.
I was there. And, you know, as a matter of fact, there was an interesting trip to San Antonio and back on Saturday. I just forgot to say it.
Oh, okay.
My daughter, Amber, went to the All-State Band.
Oh, that's
along
exciting.
with another local St. Joseph resident, Mary Starnes. She also made the All-State Band, and they were able to room together.
Oh, that's cool. So what does that involve exactly?
They try out on a regional level. Then they do good enough, they can try out on the area, and then they can qualify for the All-State Band. And so there were 10 to 20,000 band directors and students in San Antonio, literally gridlock traffic.
Oh, wow.
It was just crazy, crazy busy. And but all-state choirs, all-state orchestras, and all-state bands on various levels all come together once a year. And those that are the best of the best get to play in those bands.
So they ended up with like a big concert or something?
They did. We went to a couple of concerts on Saturday morning. So we sped there on the way to make it, and we got there in time to see both concerts that we were wanting to see. They were just outstanding to see high school students that can play at such an incredible level. So,
great. Well, wonderful. And congratulations to your daughter.
It was a lot of fun. A good visit with Anthony when he came home for a free weekend. So,
yeah. So I did want to, talk a little bit about the guy.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me.
It's Monday morning.
Yeah. No, actually it's
Feels
Tuesday.
like it.
It's Tuesday.
Feels like it.
The Guiding Star Brazos Valley fundraiser was a great event. I was really excited to be there and to be involved in being, a board member there. It's kind of funny because if y'all were listening a couple weeks ago, we had Lauren Gouldy and Abby Johnson on to talk about this project where they're trying to get a maternity home and women's resource center here in the Brazos Valley. And so, after the show, there's always, a little chit chat after the show. And, I said to them, well, if there's anything I can do to help you, please let me know.
Open mouth.
And Abby, in her sort of usual deadpan style, is like, well, you want to be on the board? And I'm like, well, okay. But it is a real honor to be a part of that. And I think it's going to be great things that they're going to be doing for women who are in crisis pregnancy. And also, even beyond that, just educating women about their bodies and the beauty of that and their fertility. And I think it'll be great. So
much needed services in our area.
Absolutely.
And they're going to work in collaboration with all the other pregnancy resource centers that are in our area. It's not going to be something to supplant them. It's going to be just to work collaboration with them and provide services that that haven't been provided for a while here, or to complement and bring some of these together in a collaboration. So it sounded really interesting.
Yeah. So if you weren't able to attend, but you want to find out more about it, you can go to guidingstar-brazosvalley.com. That's, in the all one word in the website address. And I'm certain they would love to have your interest, and certainly your donations as well, because it's going to certainly require a fundraising effort to get a maternity home up and running. And I'm sure that there are women out there who could use it right now. So
Yes.
the sooner the better on that. So I also wanted to talk about what I did yesterday, because it kind of got me to thinking. Yesterday being President's Day, we got the day off at school, and so it's always wonderful to have that sort of extra day on the weekend, and that sort of relaxation. So I had the opportunity to go out to Lake Somerville with a friend and her kids, and it's always just awesome to get out there in nature. And I think that most of us have the experience that when we do get in nature, we just feel closer to God and just sort of in awe of the beauty of His creation. I got to thinking about how, He's made this beautiful, amazing world for us to play around in, and how often we make the decision to be engaged in sort of man-made things instead. Be inside our houses, be on the computer, be in front of the TV. And, I thought, I wonder if that makes God a little sad, perhaps, that we're always sort of inside looking at our screens and not enjoying this amazing, beautiful creation that He's given us. So get out there. And now that the weather's getting better, I just want to encourage everyone to get outside and just revel in what our great Lord has given us. And also, during the time that we were there, we were there for about 4 hours, and there were quite I think all told, there were 4 boys, and they just had such a great time frolicking in the water and throwing mud, throwing stones, and we were, just kind of sitting there, their mom and I, looking at them and thinking, what a wonderful opportunity to give our boys that, just to be out there and get dirty and wrestle around and do boy stuff. So I think in this culture, we sometimes try to keep our boys a little bit tamer than they might like to be. So I think it's good to give them the opportunity to let them run, let them be a little wild and crazy. So that was a real blessing to be able to do that yesterday. All right, so I think it's about time to check out what's going on around the parishes this week. So if you are a Catholic man who's looking to join other men from the Austin Diocese for the 2nd Annual Catholic Men's Conference, time is running out for you to get yourself signed up. It will be taking place on February 22nd at the San Jose Catholic Church in Austin. Conference speakers include Father Larry Richards, one of the nation's top Catholic speakers and the author of Be a Man, and relevant radio host Justin Fatica, founder of Hard as Nails, and speaker, author, and star of an HBO documentary. So tickets for the conference may be purchased online. So please go to CatholicManToMan.com.
We actually don't carry his show. I need to look that up to see exactly what time Relevant Radio offers it.
All right.
If it's something that's popular, let us know here at Red Sea Catholic Radio. We're always wanting to hear people's feedback and give us a shout. Contact us through the website. Click the Contact Us button and let us know if you like that speaker and you think he has a good show. Maybe we could make some arrangements in our schedule to do that.
Absolutely. We are kind of in this sort of phase right now where we're really trying to take a look at what the programming we have on is and how it's serving our listeners, and what they like, what they don't like, when they listen, when they don't listen. So we are always just love to get feedback from anyone who's willing. So please do, anytime you're interested in sending us some feedback, you can send it to Roundup at redsearadio.org or Dennis at redsearadio.org, and we'll certainly want to hear from you and know what you like.
Indeed.
So if you want to take a break from rushing to make dinner, you can join the Girls Challenge Club at Chick-fil-A at the William D. Fitch location in South College Station on Thursday, February 20th from 5 to 8 p.m. They will be having a fundraiser where proceeds will go towards scholarships for the St. Thomas Aquinas Catholic Church Challenge Club girls to attend retreats. If you mention that you are there to help support Challenge Club, you can place your receipt in the Challenge Club basket, and they will receive some money as a donation. So we really appreciate Chick-fil-A. They're really good about doing that stuff around town a little bit.
Yeah, so definitely we want to emphasize the Challenge Club. So if you go there it'll be, of course, your choice whether or not to make that purchase, because we can't necessarily ask you to do that on these nonprofit radio stations. But for sure, support the Challenge Club, because they are definitely worth supporting. So just keep that in mind. They've got some great things going for some young ladies there.
Yeah, the retreats that they have are great for sort of encouraging women to grow in virtue and to really try to live lives that are according to God's will and not so much just according to what the culture is. And it's certainly something that we need for girls to be raised with now. So if you'd like to treat yourself to a fun night with other married couples to enrich your marriage vocation, you can join the Married Couples Group on Friday, February 21st from 6 to 9:30 p.m. at St. Mary's Catholic Center. For more details and to RSVP, you can contact Carrie at met@aggiecatholic.org. There will be babysitting provided with a $5 donation. Light appetizers and drinks will be served, and they will begin their evening of studying the Covenant of Love Marriage Enrichment Program developed by Greg and Julie Alexander. After the program, they will relocate to a restaurant for fellowship and drinks. This Saturday, February 22nd, you can give a couple of your hours to help the St. Anthony's Meals on Wheels program. Hot meals will be delivered to someone that is homebound or less fortunate. You can be the arms and legs of Jesus. If you come at 8 a.m., you can help prepare and package the meals and also help with the cleanup, or you can stay and help deliver and come right at 9:45 to help make deliveries. So this is a really great program to help folks who can't get out of their house and need nutritious meals. And this is just a way to serve them and just to be a really visible, presence as far as, serving and being out there. So please do consider coming to St. Anthony's on Saturday, February 22nd to help with the Meals on Wheels.
I know we've done that as a family, 2 or 3 times. We don't get to fit that in enough. And every time we do, the people that we deliver to are just so gracious. And so it's a blessing to be able to deliver things to them. And it's not like people just sitting on their rear ends waiting for you to bring them a meal. It's people that can't get out, and they truly do appreciate what the gift that you're bringing to them. And it's a nice ministry to do. So St. Anthony's is a great place to go do that.
Right. I think that a lot of times, as parents, we do try to look for opportunities that we can show our children service and being that charitable witness to others. And so this really is a good opportunity to be able to do that if you want to bring your kids, and they certainly will be blessed by seeing the gratitude and the joy that comes from even the human contact, honestly. I mean, the food is one thing, but just to have that person to see and, shake their hand. And I think that means a lot to the folks who are homebound as well.
It does. St. Anthony's group's pretty good at feeding people,
Absolutely. Yeah.
They ran out of spaghetti this last weekend.
Oh, did they?
Or 2 weekends ago. It was amazing from what I've heard the stories.
I think Judy said, Judy Como, she ran out of meatballs. Yeah. That's right. So, but apparently if you got a discount if you got a plate that was meatball-less.
Well, they actually offered people free of charge if you
really?
came in, and they, but some people took it, some people didn't.
Sure.
But yeah, that was amazing that they fed was it 23 or 3,200? One of those two. It was a lot.
Yeah. So thank you.
It was a record-setting spaghetti dinner.
That's
so
great. So thank you for all of y'all who came out to support St. Anthony's Altar Society with the spaghetti dinner last weekend. One thing I did want to talk about, this is sort of a save the date because it's something that's going to be happening in the future, but I am quite involved in the planning for this event, so I wanted to get it out there as a save the date. On the Mother's Day weekend, May 9th and 10th, many of you are familiar with the Our Lady's Brunch, which has been going on for several years now, where it happens over at St. Thomas Aquinas, and women have a table where they decorate it very nicely, and there's a lovely meal and a speaker. Well, this year, I'm involved with the planning of this event, and we're so excited about the person that we have coming on that we actually have expanded the weekend, and now there's actually going to be a thing for girls on the night before, on Friday the 9th. And then the evening after the brunch on Saturday, there will also be a meeting for married couples. And the speaker/singer that we're going to be having is Tai Chi Cameron. And she's has a really interesting story of having been a pop star in Croatia. And then there's a lot of interesting story. I'm not going to get into it now, but this is just a little bit of a teaser. So I hope that you'll consider putting this on your schedule for the weekend of May 9th and 10th. because I think it's going to be really exciting and fun events that we're going to be putting on. And this is something that's put on by the women of Regnum Christi.
From what I've heard, she's fairly well known around the world. She's been on EWTN, or international television. Not that
Life
long
on
ago.
the Rock. She was on. They actually
ago.
did 2 episodes with her and her husband because they really do have a very interesting story. So put it on your schedule, and it'll be coming to St. Thomas Aquinas the weekend of May 9th and 10th. I do have a few minutes to get to some of the things that are going around the world. I did want to talk about a meeting that happened last week at the one of our congressional meetings that took place in Washington, D.C. The Vatican Apostolic Nuncio to the United Nations told a congressional hearing last week that the flagrant and widespread persecution of Christians rages in the Middle East. The House Subcommittee on Global Human Rights listened to international experts testify about the rise in Christian persecution throughout the world. The Archbishop himself has witnessed the violence firsthand. Before taking the post as a permanent observer to the Holy See in the UN, Archbishop Francis A. Choulicat served as an apostolic nuncio to Iraq and Jordan and lived in Baghdad from 2006 to 2010. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar, an apostolic nuncio is basically similar to an ambassador from the from the Vatican. So the Archbishop stated that the tragedy is all the more egregious when one pauses to consider that these men and women of faith have been living at peace with their neighbors for untold generations. He denounced the emerging tradition of bombing Catholic and other Christian churches on Christmas Eve, which has been happening in the Middle East for several years. The Archbishop indicated that the damage the violence does to children psychologically is immense, saying that they live in fear, they go to schools not even sure they will come back safe and alive. He also expressed concern for the future, saying that this kind of formation we are giving to the young generations who will become leaders is a very painful and dangerous thing. Now, the persecution of Christians is not limited to just those living in the Middle East. In fact, the Pew Forum found that Christians suffer some form of harassment in 139 countries between 2006 and 2010, and this is the largest group that's being persecuted throughout the world right now. Other speakers at the hearing testified about violence against Christians in Indonesia, Vietnam, Nigeria, Myanmar, Sudan, Eritrea, and among others, India and China. And they cited denial of education or employment in various countries as types of persecution in addition to just violent persecution. And some of the other problems raised during the hearing is that the United States has not appointed a new ambassador at large for the international religious freedoms, the State Department post established by the International Religious Freedom Act of 1998. The ambassadorship is a key position in the United States on religious freedom, and the seat has been vacant since October. The point was made that this sends a message to other countries around the world that that there's an inattention and lack of concern for religious persecution on the part of the United States government. So in his address, Archbishop Choulicat said that Christians throughout the world must work together to ensure religious freedom for all. Now, I think that sometimes when I think about the martyrs, when we read about the saints and we think about the martyrs, and we often, we do, rightly so, put them on the pedestal for their witness, but then I think often miss the fact that there is martyrdom that's happening in this world right now. There are saints who are being created because they are being killed and persecuted for their faith. And to a large part here in the West, we often don't even give significant thought to them. Now, I wanted to just highlight this because I really do feel that we owe it, at least to our brothers and sisters in Christ throughout the world that are experiencing persecution, our prayers daily for their strength in the midst of persecution, that they would be that witness that God is calling them to be in that situation, but also pray for our leaders in our country, that they would place an emphasis on trying to make strides to decrease the violence that's happening against Christians. So I hope we will join together in that. So we were going to be going to a break. When we're back, hopefully we'll be with Father Michael Sullivan. And until then, stay tuned, and we will be back soon. Hello, and welcome back. This is Red Sea Roundup. I'm your host, Megan Silas. We are live today, so please do consider calling in with your questions or comments. The phone number is 85-LOVE-RED-SEA, 855-683-7332, or to text. The phone number is 979-255-2633. And we do have Father Michael Sullivan on the line. So I want to welcome Father Michael. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm so glad that you could join us via the phone-way lines. And, I guess are you on a cell phone or are you on a landline?
I'm on a cell phone. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's great to have you here, and I hope that we don't lose your cell signal, but I think you're probably going to be sitting in one place, so we're probably okay, right?
Right.
All right, so why don't you tell us where that one place is that you're sitting so people can kind of just visualize where you are?
Well, I'm not in Aggieland. I'm in Katy, Texas at Pope John the 23rd High School. It's one of the chaplaincies I do. It's a Catholic high school in Katy, Texas, just west of Houston off I-10. Started in 2004. We're now in 2014. Went from 40 kids to 400. So I'm
Wow.
chaplain here.
That is exciting. So what I wanted to do on this program is to talk with you about basically your vocation story, kind of go back and talk about, your faith and your childhood and how you sort of grew up and embraced your faith and decided to come into the priesthood. So why don't we start, for any of you, I don't know if there's anyone who knows you who doesn't know where you're from, but why don't you let everyone know sort of where you grew up and sort of what that was like?
Well, I'm from Minnesota, you betcha. Don't you know? Right. And I was a little kid. I played ice hockey, and I was a classical pianist and did slalom skiing in the Great White North. So I was born in Texas, but got here as soon as I could.
Well, so are you enjoying watching the Olympics? Do you watch the slalom skiing and imagine that you were out there doing that?
The one thing I have not had time to do in years is watch TV. So I have not seen a single minute of the Olympics. Woe is me. Although I preach about it. I preach about some great Olympic hockey moments and more.
Oh, well, there you go. Taking the Olympics, they are a wonderful expression of how we use our bodies in the way that God designed them to do great things, right?
That's right.
So you're growing up, you're a kid in Minnesota, playing hockey, skiing. What's your faith life like as a kid? What was the sort of household?
Well, in addition to classical piano, ice hockey, and slalom skiing for the U.S. Ski Association, I pioneered uncharted waters of juvenile delinquency. So I was the pioneer in the field and gave my parents gray hair. I went to a Catholic school in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I've since been back to celebrate Mass, and that's been pretty heartwarming, and I think maybe a motive of hope for parents. With my long hair and pierced ear, I have turned my life around, or shall I say I'm still in the process of conversion. So came from a pretty rough family background. My parents ended up divorcing during a couple years of, let's say, high school graduation, first year of college. I'm also a college dropout. I was at the University of Dallas for a year before joining the seminary. And so during that 2-year period, my parents' conflict reached a height and ended in civil divorce.
Mm-hmm.
So that was hard. That was hard growing up, but I had a wonderful relationship with my mom in particular. My dad just passed away, and we had a wonderful reconciliation. But it was a hard beginning, and I was looking for acceptance and friendship and love in all the wrong places. God, however, at the same time preserved me from a lot of falls, and I'm extremely grateful, and I feel like I can identify with kids who are going through tough times. As I walk the hallways of this school, I can just think of kids who have tough relationships with their parents and have a heart for youth, which is all I do.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about this time where you're a self-professed juvenile delinquent. I won't make you get into the details of what exactly you were getting yourself up to, but can you talk a little bit about how your parents dealt with that? Because I'm sure there are a lot of parents who are listening who maybe they're struggling with what their sons or daughters might be doing, things they don't approve of. Can you give any sort of insight on how your parents dealt with that, the pluses and minuses of what they did and how that impacted you?
I can try. I think our lives are a mystery even to ourselves, and I think my mom, God bless her, she could probably answer it better than me, and she'd probably have a long and flustered pause as she thought through what I put her through. But I remember one time seeing my mom cry based on what I was doing, and that really hit home. Like, my mom is a person and I've hurt her, that really turns things around. I think parents sometimes can fall into the trap of thinking you have more control than you do. I mean, any parents out there listening to this interview, who's the last person you would blame for your own misdeeds? Your own parents. And so I try to live by and definitely preach the serenity prayer of what's in our control, what's not in our control. I'm trying to think how they would absorb it. I think there was a lot of heartache, a lot of challenge. At the same time, I feel like I did get unconditional love from my parents. And even amidst the challenges that they faced as a couple, I knew my job as a kid was to love them both unconditionally. And to this day, I feel like my greatest experience of God's unconditional love for me is the unconditional love of my mom for me.
Mm-hmm.
And if you love, you can't go wrong. St. John Newman said, "He whom you would wish to change, you must first love. And he must know that you love him." So parents that are investing in their lives of their children and their time, John Bosco used to say, love the boys. Love the things the boys love, and they will love what you love. John Bosco has been called by the popes the apostle of youth. He was a religious priest about a century ago in Italy.
Right. It was funny that you bring that up because at the beginning of the show, I was just talking about a trip I took to the lake with my kids and my friend who has 3 boys, and about how we were just enjoying watching them play and be boys, like wrestle around, throw mud at each other, and do that boy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I remember reading a book by David Blankenhorn called Fatherless America, and he's written other books as well, and he said a couple with a child at the playground can often react differently. Mom who sees her son climb the ladder to the slide or the tree can say, "Honey, be careful," whereas Dad will be down there saying, "See how far you can get."
Right.
I think we need both different types. We get different things from our moms and dads, and even though there were some things lacking in my relationship with my father, there were other men in my life that mentored me, and as time goes on, I just feel more, not less grateful for that input. They say that actually 2/3 of all priests, now I'm a priest, so I guess I bring that up. 2/3 of all priests were asked when they were young by somebody, "Hey, ever thought about being a priest?" And only 1/3 of priests, I've read somewhere, only 1/3 of priests are actually asking that question.
Right.
So that's an invitation to us all to, when we see young men that are interested in a possible calling, or that we just see maybe could or should be interested, for us to not be afraid to ask that question.
Now, during the time that you were, at home and getting into trouble, what was the role that faith played in your family? You were going to a Catholic school, so that implies that your parents had some devotion to raising you up Catholic. Were you did you go to Mass every Sunday? Were there, devotions at home that you were engaged in, or how did that work?
I was always at Mass every Sunday with my mom and my brother. I have one younger brother. And we prayed before meals, prayed before trips, and I knew that faith was deeply important to my mother. The statistics show that the importance of faith in the lives of parents virtually trickles down almost numerically to the importance that that'll play in the lives of their children. Beyond that, not a lot of popular piety, not a lot of anything special. I knew my mom loved me unconditionally, and my dad, I think, had like we all do. We all walked this valley of tears with a certain amount of baggage, and did the best they could. But I still have it as an acronym of my own, Megan, to draft my own little top 10 list of ways parents can foster vocations. I don't really know how much special went on. I think Paul VI talked about vocation as the mysterious calling of God to the soul.
Now, did you feel, during the time when you were getting into trouble, did you feel any sense of, I'm not doing what God's will is, or was there any sense of that, or were you just kind of totally focused on the moment and what you were doing?
I didn't realize what I was even doing until I was ordained a priest. So that's a way down the road, but it's honestly my only insightful answer or comment on your question.
Right.
What do I mean? I mean, when I was ordained a priest, I felt like I received, not achieved, received acceptance. In some senses, I think the sacrament of the priesthood is even more intimate than the Eucharist, because willy-nilly, for better or worse, I have been indelibly marked as a soldier and priest for Christ, and that will never leave me in time or eternity. And I felt like that was what I was after as a young man, seeking God in all the wrong places, seeking acceptance through groups of friends that were about the wrong thing, relationships that were not entirely healthy, activities that were certainly destructive and hurt my family, hurt people that loved me. So I think I was searching for acceptance.
Right.
And it wasn't until I realized that I found my deepest acceptance in God that many years down the road, after 14 years of formation and 33 years of priesthood, 33 years of life, rather, I realized what was going on.
Right. All right. Before we go on to the sort of transition from the delinquency to the priesthood, I want to give out the phone number again. The phone number is 85-LOVE-RED-C, 855-683-7332, or to text 979-255-2633. We are talking to Father Michael Sullivan about his vocation to the priesthood. If you have any questions about priestly vocations or vocations to religious life, maybe you have a family member or someone who you think maybe would be the type of person you would want to say, have you ever thought about the priesthood? Maybe you'd like to call in or text to ask Father Michael a question. So, Father Michael, you've talked about you went to University of Dallas briefly and then dropped out prior to coming to the point where you entered the seminary. Now, how does a Minnesota boy decide that he wants to go to University of Dallas?
Well, ironically enough, the University of Dallas, for those listening who don't know about it, it's a small private school in Irving, Texas, next to the old Texas Stadium. Irving is in between Dallas and Fort Worth, closer to Dallas in the Diocese of Dallas. And it's a couple thousand kids, undergraduate, a couple thousand graduate, and it's a small liberal arts school. They call themselves the Catholic University for Independent Thinkers. And I haven't been involved or associated with the university for years, and I only went there for 1 year, but school I really wanted to go to. There's a bold and determined, decided, dedicated core curriculum of 2 years worth of study, where the school had the guts to say, we're not going to give you a course catalog, we're going to tell you what it means to be educated, and whether you're going to major in philosophy, theology, business, science, pre-law, pre-med, or what have you, there are things you need to know to be an educated person in Christendom, and those involve literature, philosophy, theology, the great works, the great books of Western civilization, including Dante, Aristotle, Aquinas, and Shakespeare, and others, and essentially came to that school with here's a part of my story I haven't mentioned, which is even part of a Protestant tendency in high school. I'm from Minnesota, and there the Protestants and Catholics get along really well. So well, in fact, that I feel like some of my youth ministry was a little generic in the sense that some of our Catholic teachings were not as wonderfully highlighted, but I don't regret any of it. I fell in love with the Lord, and then eventually with this church at the University of Dallas. And so really there, I saw the rosary prayed for the first time. A group of young women were praying it in front of the image of Our Lady of Guadalupe in the chapel, and I heard the Litany of Loretto, which is this long litany of praise to Mary after the rosary. And I thought, wow, they take this whole Mary thing really seriously. I began to pray at the abortion clinics, met up with some great priests, and Opus Dei is a wonderful group. It's called the Personal Prelature. I fell in love with the Catholic Church and normal young men and women who were Catholic. And so that was a big, big transition for me. I was ready to go spend a semester in Rome. But to answer your question, they sent a recruiter to all places to the Edina High School in Minnesota. Edina High School is, I think, one of the top public high schools in the state of Minnesota, if not the country, and it's good academics, good athletics. Minnesota State High School hockey champions, you betcha. And so, of all places, they sent a recruiter to our high school. And when I heard her talk about the great books and the program, I was in love and made the 17-hour drive down with a kid I was friends with ever since kindergarten, and we joined as freshmen.
So would you say that it was sort of that kind of that liberal arts, traditional liberal arts, what we think of, the classics and all that. You think, is that what drew you more than its Catholic identity at that point?
Yes, that's a great point, and I never thought about that. That's exactly right. I remember having a Catholic roommate whose Catholicism I could not stand, and I won't say his name, but we haven't spoken in a couple of decades. But I remember him saying things that he couldn't back up, and that got my goat. And I remember asking him, "Why do you believe this, Bill?" And he didn't know. And so I wanted understanding to be a part of my faith, and figured I was going to go change those Catholics, and they ended up changing me.
Right. But I think but in a way you kind of combined the two things, right? Because you didn't abandon your love of digging deep, philosophy, the writings of brilliant people. You just connected that to the faith instead of thinking that they were maybe mutually exclusive.
Right, and I remember just saying no to parties, saying no to outings, and doing something as crazy as it might seem, but just sitting and praying and writing what all my questions were. My mind was going a million miles an hour, and it wasn't until I sat down with a wonderful and now renowned theologian by the name of Dr. Douglas Bushman. He's been on EWTN and done translations for the Daughters of St. Paul and Vatican II documents and more. And he helped me see this. He said, "Mike, some of these questions are spiritual. Some of these are doctrinal. Doctrinal, we can bang out together. That's easy. The spiritual direction side is a component that you want to pursue with a holy and wise priest, or with myself," he said. And I did. And it was a light for me to realize, wow, there are personal questions here, and there are doctrinal questions here. And really, the personal side of things has two key moments. One was with a wonderful Cistercian priest by the name of Father Robert McGuire. Back in the day, he was already probably, who wants to play favorites, but I think he was among the favorite, if not the favorite, professor of students at the University of Dallas. He's a Cistercian at Our Lady of Dallas Cistercian Abbey, teaches literature and more at the university, literary tradition. And he said, well, he's probably got to call into the priesthood. And here was a priest that I greatly respected, the first person to tell me that. Mm-hmm. And the second moment was when a Legionary of Christ, the group I'm with now, Legionary of Christ priest, came over for a holy hour put on by the then Margaret Roper Society evening Eucharistic hour, and I rushed over from my room as I was late, and I sat down in the chapel of the Incarnation at the university and just heard him saying, "This Irish brogue, maybe young men aren't following the call, but don't tell me God's not calling them to the priesthood." I wanted to crawl under a rock. I went over to the confessional, read about when he did, and said, his name is Father Lancelot. He was an Irish javelin thrower. And I said, "Father, I don't have a confession prepared, but I'd love to speak to you about the priesthood. I feel like I'm called." The next day I went over to the Legionary School, which is the Highland School right across the way, and saw him standing outside in his cassock in Texas March or May. And I said, isn't it hot in that thing?" And he just said, "Yes." We walked around. I told him my story, and later that summer I was back home thinking about possible calling.
Now, you said that when you went to that holy hour with the Legion priest, you felt convicted, right? That he's saying that God's calling and men aren't answering. So prior to that point, had you sort of felt the stirrings of a call and yet maybe fought against it, or?
I had. I had met wonderful priests in the past, both diocesan and religious order priests, and I felt like there may be a call there, but that was someday. And certainly not anytime soon. I was dating. I was ready to go to Rome for a full semester at the University of Dallas, which sophomores do, half in the fall, half in the spring. I was going to major in philosophy, endeavoring to maybe study theology abroad later. But priesthood was definitely later. Mm-hmm. And when I met the Legionaries, that later became now. I don't mean to impose that path on someone considering or discerning, but in a minute here, I'd like to tell you my story and say, yeah, in my case, there was an inkling prior, but it was very much someday,
right?
Sometime soon.
So, what was it about the Legion of Christ and their particular type of spirituality and mission that really called to you?
Well, so three things about the Legionaries impressed me, even from the comfort of my armchair, which is where that's the posture whence I wanted to discern. Soon realized you couldn't. But they were young, fast-growing, and faithful to the Pope. And even amidst the recent scandalous news and difficult time of renewal that we're in, those three things are still true. It really came to a head on July 25th, 1994, when I was mowing the lawn in Minnesota back home for the summer. My parents were finalizing a divorce. My mom was really suffering. My brother was still at home, about to head off to the University of Colorado at Boulder. And so the family was dividing. And I was halfway through the backyard, and I just stopped the lawnmower. And I took off my Walkman, which is 80s lingo for iPod, terrible music I was listening to. And I went into the drove over to the local church with a devotional book, knelt down with my lawn mowing shorts on, and just said, Lord, out loud to the Eucharist, what do you want me to do? And I remember opening a devotional book to a random page. This was my moment of Russian roulette with my soul. And I turned to a page at random, and it said, God's calling you to be an apostle. It's time to give him everything, give him what he wants.
Mm-hmm.
I said, that certainly can't be what you want me to do. Is there a second opinion out there? Turned to a different page, again at random, and it said, God's called you to be his follower. Jesus has said this and said it to you. I said, Houston, we've got problems. Turned to a final page looking for some other message, and it said, again at random, if you see your path clearly, follow it. Why don't you shake off the cowardice that holds you back? I remember looking at the crucifix, 3 strikes and you're out, and wishing I could find one muscle in Christ's body that wasn't tense in pain out of love for me. That was my 19-year-old after freshman year prayer. And if I could find one, it's almost like I had convinced myself, well, then I wouldn't have to give God everything.
Right, you could hold that one part back.
Right, and there's no worse combination than everything right now, and that's what a vocation feels like. I remember finding out later that was the Feast of St. James, Apostle and Martyr, July 25, and the Gospel verse, the Alleluia antiphon for that day is, you didn't choose me, I chose you. I drove home, asked my mom for her blessing. My dad asked me one question, Mike, are you running from something or to something?
Oh, well.
The next day I quit my job. Wednesday I gave back things I had borrowed. Thursday I packed my things. And Friday I flew out to visit the Legionaries, and I've never looked back.
So can you talk a little bit about how being a legionary differs from being, a diocesan priest or something like that? Because I'm not sure everyone's familiar with what that difference is. Good
question, yes. So in the church there are religious and there are priests. Religious as a noun, those who profess the religious vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience. Poverty, chastity, and obedience, got no money, got no honey, but got a boss. And so everyone who's a religious, be it a sister or a brother or a priest, has those 3 vows. Some groups have additional vows. Long short on that is, after the persecution of Constantine ended in ancient Rome, this became the heroic way to follow Jesus in a life that denies possessions, denies the good of the body, and even legitimate good of the soul outside obedience to a superior. So there are some priests that are also religious. The priesthood is a different deal. It's a sacrament. The vows are not a sacrament. The vows are what I give God. The sacrament of holy orders, much like sacrament of holy matrimony, is something God gives me. So there are some people who are both a religious and a priest. I became a religious first. I'm a member of a community. There are 2 communities in Texas, and one in Dallas, one in Houston. And so among the religious, there are several kinds of religious, and all of which endeavor to bear witness to some facet of the mystery of Christ. You've probably heard of the Jesuits, the Dominicans, the Franciscans. Well, we're one of those. Mm-hmm. And each of those groups has 3 things about it that in its united whole, as a whole, makes it kind of a unique personality. And those questions are, and these are also, to my listeners, these are also the questions you'll want to ask when you visit a seminary, when you visit a convent or a religious house, a monastery or a seminary. Who are you? What do you do? And how do you pray? visiting the Benedictines or the Franciscans or the conventuals or what have you, those three questions, who are you, what do you do, how do you pray, comprise what makes up the corporate personality of a group, be it a diocese or a religious order. And that answers how do you relate to God, to the souls to whom you minister, and to each other. So that would be community, ministry, and spirituality. In the case of the Legionaries, and we work in conjunction with a group that I'll talk about in a minute, Regnum Christi, lay people, we endeavor to be Christ-centered. That's our spirituality. We endeavor to work with those in a position to influence others, like St. Paul tells Timothy in 2 Timothy 2:2, what you heard from me, now you, Bishop Tim, pass on to others that will also be competent to teach others as well. And finally, our community spirit is a variety of groups of lay people and priests working together for the kingdom. None of those things are taken separately. None of those things are unique to us as a group, but it's not all about originality. It's just about that intangible feel that comes from the coalescing of the parts in a whole.
Right. So, okay, because we don't have a lot of time left, about 7 minutes, I want to skip forward. So now you're a priest, you're in the Legion, and you find yourself in Houston, and then driving to College Station, Texas. Can you talk about a little bit about your experience as working with the students at Texas A&M?
Absolutely. So, just a brief synopsis of formation. That I had 14 years of formation, starting with the university where you study Christ, and I had 7 years of training in Rome. All the Legionaries of Christ train in Rome at our Pontifical Athenaeum, one stop from the Vatican. I've been with the Pope 119 times, and yes, I'm apparently counting. I was ordained at the age of 33 at the Basilica of St. Paul's outside the walls. And once I was ordained, after philosophy, theology, internship, and liberal arts, I was sent to Texas to work with youth. So I got promoted from Rome to Texas very happily. I am a vocation director, so I work with those that are discerning a call, and I work with youth. And so what I'm engaged in now is just the wonderful community of Legionaries and Regnum Christi members in Houston, in spring specifically. And I'm blessed to be a part of 3 chaplaincies. So from oldest down to youngest, I'm on staff as a visiting campus minister. I call myself the Aggie wannabe at St. Mary's in College Station. And so I'm just a part of the pre-existing and wonderful, as you all know, if you're listening, youth ministry, campus ministry rather, at Texas A&M University, serving Texas A&M and Blinn under the leadership of Father David Condoba, started by, really honed in by now Bishop Mike Siss, with wonderful associates over the past couple of decades, including Father Brian McMaster, Father Jonathan Rea, Father Barry Cuba, Father Dean Wilhelm, Father Chris Downey, and many, many others. That campus ministry is among the premier, if not the premier, such ministry in the nation.
Yeah, we had Frank Shannon on last week talking about their proposed expansion project, which is really exciting.
So that's one of the things I do. I'm able to help with Mass, confession, spiritual direction, Aggie Awakening, supporting things like the Revolution and the Knights of Columbus, and just the life of Catholicism in Aggie land. Second thing I do is, as of January, last month, I am chaplain here at Pope John the 23rd High School in Katy, Texas. And here, like I said, they went from 40 to 400 in 10 years, and it's a co-ed Catholic high school with great liturgy and theology. And here I do Mass, confession. Today I'm doing a Stump the Priest session of Q&A after school, and lots going on here. And the third thing I do is in Houston proper, in the Energy Corridor, at a school called John Paul II Catholic School. I just became the chaplain at John Paul II Catholic School. It's a pre-K to eighth grade or elementary, middle school, with about 720 kids, and it's a pretty impressive place. So that's really where my heart is, I think. It's with those younger souls, and I think just looking in their bright eyes and thinking of the seeds a priest can plant. And I look at them and want to support what their parents and their staff and faculty want to have happen in their lives. And so that's what I do on Thursdays and Fridays. And on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, I do Pope John, and on the weekends, I do Aggie Land, and Conquest. Conquest is like the legionary thing of us working with boys. I work with college mentors, and I endeavor to lead middle school boys to 4 things: God, virtue, service, and fun. And so we do retreats and camps and trips throughout the state. Everything that's involved with that is at TexasConquest.com. I tell the Aggie mentors, young men that I train, to train the boys in those things. I say that 3 things I aim at with that is dodgeball, paintball, and Jesus. So
it's a good combo.
I'm busy. It's integral. I'm busy and work with other legionary priests and seminarians and lay people to make that happen. So that's what's on my plate.
Which is a lot. I can see why you're not watching television that much. I do have a question here that's come in for me to ask you. Will you still be able to visit Aggie Land now that you have these new chaplaincy duties?
Yes, I will. I will actually be in Aggie Land on this Saturday. Thank you for asking. I've loved it there, and I have grown in so many ways. I was there during my first year of priesthood. I've been a priest for 5 years now, and I've loved preaching and learning. And so, yes, I'm there about once a month, maybe once and a half a month, if you count things that I come for the younger kids, too. This weekend, I'll be speaking and hearing confessions at a joint middle school retreat being held at St. Anne's in Somerville.
Great.
That's going to involve middle schoolers from, I think, 4 local parishes.
So with just a couple minutes left here, is there something that you would like to leave us with as far as what you think are some of the top things? You said you had a top 10 list of fostering vocations. So maybe just give a few highlights there of what you think, we could do in our Catholic community, in our culture of faith within the homes to foster vocations in young men.
Yes, Megan, and great question. I'm happy to end with that. The first thing I would say is be bold and see a young person, a young woman who looks like she'd be a wonderful mom. Did you ever think about being a sister? I think of the apostles of the interior life and the witness they bear to consecrated life with the Aggie young women. Those are 3 religious sisters, nuns, we often call them, at St. Mary's, giving spiritual direction and much more. And I think of the feminine motherly presence they have. So ask a young woman, have you ever thought about being a sister? Ever thought about consecrating your life to God? I think of the Regnum Christi consecrated women with whom I work in tandem. Regnum Christi, again, is this lay movement of apostolate that works with souls in a way that's Christ-centered and ambitious. We're evangelizers. The top 5, I would say, for a young person discerning would be open, pray, get a spiritual director, service, and retreat. Openness means being prepared to sign a blank check to God. Praying is what the Catechism describes as the vital and the crucial relationship with the living and true God. Spiritual direction is seeking out a wise and holy person who can help me discern God's call better. Service is what consecrated life and priesthood's all about. And a retreat, number 5, is by which I mean a discernment immersion retreat, whereby you visit a community you can't tell from the comfort of your own home. And there comes a point where we're only going to find out what God wants by actually following Christ's call to come and see. Like Abraham, Jeremiah, the prophets, and the apostles, we have to leave our comfort zone. The gospel says, he who follows me will have the light of life.
Okay, well, we have 15 seconds left, so I'd like to just ask you if you could maybe just give us a quick blessing before we go.
May Almighty God bless you, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Well, thank you so much, Father Michael, for being on and for your witness to the beauty and the joy that is in the priesthood. And we just wish you the best of luck in your work.
Megan, thank you so much.
Thank you. And I hope you'll join us next week. George Caudell from the St. Vincent de Paul Society will be with me to look at the work they're doing to help the needy in the Brazos Valley. And until then, when choosing between the values of heaven and the world, always round up. God bless.